Our rankings team released an update for the 25 class, and the top spot belongs to the quarterback, Bryce Underwood, and it just so happens he was in Ann Arbor for the game. So, Alan, take maybe a temperature for us. Where do the Wolverines stand in his recruitment?
Right, so he's still tentatively planning on making a commitment announcement on January 6th of 2024. That is fast approaching. Right now, Steve Wilfong and I have crystal ball picks in for LSU. But anytime you're Michigan and you can get him back on campus, even though he's nearby, it's important to get him there, especially when you consider that the following day he played in the state title game. So he certainly could have stayed home and, kind of got his mind together for that game. But he was in Ann Arbor enjoying that game between Michigan and Ohio State. So Michigan continues to fight the fight. I think that they've been able to model what he could do on and off the field with J.J. McCarthy. I think that's important. He wants to be able to see how he'll be used. Michigan's opened up the passing game, and then he wants to know about NIL, and J.J. McCarthy has done very well in both departments. So I think that's helping Michigan stay in the game. Kirk Campbell's done a really, really good job recruiting him. He took over partway through that recruitment, and I think he's really done a lot to keep Michigan in this race. I think Bryce is very open to going outside of the state, though, and that's why schools like LSU and most of the other schools that were in his top 7 are from a little bit further away from home. So as we know, with top quarterback recruitments, things can change quite a bit. Things could even change if he announces on the 6th and coaching changes happen or other schools come through with other packages. And we've learned that right here in the state of Michigan from covering Dante Moore's recruitment, which went to UCLA right at the last second. So even if he does make an announcement on the 6th, I don't necessarily think that recruitment will be over. But as of now, if that announcement takes place at the scheduled time, LSU is the pick between me and Steve Wilfong, but Michigan certainly fighting the good fight, and performances like Saturday's don't hurt at all.
Well, and somebody who got to see that performance on Saturday was Gatlin Bair, who's the #1 player in the state of Idaho, the highest rated player to ever come from the Gem State. He committed to Boise State back in August, choosing to stay for the in-state school. But then, interestingly enough, 2 weekends ago, he took an unofficial visit to Oregon. That weekend he was in Eugene. Andy Avalos was fired at Boise State. Michigan has not stopped recruiting. In fact, we said on this show a couple weeks ago that Michigan continued to push for Gatlin Bair despite his commitment to Boise State, partly because of the season that Boise State was having. Now, Boise State is playing for the Mountain West Championship. Spencer Danielson, the interim coach, could be in line to get the head coaching job. But you could start to tell that a couple of weeks ago that Michigan and Oregon were making a much bigger push than people realized when he went to Eugene 2 weeks ago and then went to Ann Arbor this weekend, got to be there for the game on Saturday, got to see what Michigan did in their final regular season game before they go to the Big Ten Championship. And now Bair is going to have a final decision to make here in the coming weeks. Does he stick with Boise State? Does he watch to see what the Broncos do with their head coaching hire? Do they promote Danielson to the full-time job? Do they go outside the family? Does Oregon, which has probably the most stability of the programs that are in the Final 3 right now, just because of the extension from Dan Lanning, these other jobs that he was mentioning with being filled, or Michigan? There is the questions about Jim Harbaugh. He is coming back this week, but Michigan has long been a factor here. They were the runner-up for him. His coach Colston Loveland, who is now starting tight end for Michigan. So the Wolverines are right in there, but as we've said before, the other thing with Bair that's the wild card here is because he is LDS, he's going to serve an LDS mission, and he'll start that mission in January. He won't be back until the spring of 2026. So even if he does sign somewhere in December, he won't be on a college campus. There had been some speculation that maybe he wouldn't take that mission, but he has been adamant. He's already been given his mission call. He will take that mission, so he will not be on a college campus until 2026. And a lot could happen in the next 3 weeks, let alone the next 2 years with Gatlin Bair.
Huff, you mentioned Oregon, so let's stick with the Ducks. And obviously, Gatlin Bair would be a huge addition to that recruiting class as one of the best athletes in America. We already know that they have one of the best defensive line hauls in this 2024 recruiting cycle. But we know that Tosh Lupoi, Tony Tuioti, and Dan Lanning are hoping to add to that. They had 4-star Jericho Johnson on campus this past weekend. What is the buzz coming out of that visit?
Well, there is a lot of buzz that it's going to be the Ducks. In fact, Steve Wilfong and I put in a crystal ball for Oregon last week. He visited Oregon back in September when they played Colorado. He was back there this weekend. He's never actually taken an official visit to Eugene, but he's been there numerous times. Only 2 schools he's taken as an official were Utah and Washington. Both were in his Final Four, as well as USC, but a visit to USC, which was supposed to be for the Washington game, got pushed back. Jericho told 24/7 last week he's going to announce his decision on Thursday, December 21st, the second day of the early signing period. He plans to enroll in January. He'll play in the All-American Bowl in San Antonio. It's down to the 4 schools that have been kind of the 4 that have been there since the end of the summer: Utah, Washington, Oregon, and USC. But I like where the Ducks sit in this recruitment. I think when you look at their class with Aiden Breland and Elijah Rushing already on board, to add Jericho, the top player in Northern California, at a premium position where the West Coast doesn't always have a lot of defensive linemen, and they could end up getting 3 of the best. I like where Oregon is sitting for him right now, and I think this last visit this weekend probably pushes them even further across the goal line, and they still have the official visit yet. But Oregon doing really well in potentially adding to maybe one of the best defensive line classes the Pac-12 has ever seen. I'm sorry, the Big Ten, guys.
Just in time for that move to the Big Ten. They always say you got to be bigger to be in the Big Ten, and Oregon is certainly doing that. It's about that time of the show when I remind you to hit that like button. We got a lot of people watching, but not a whole lot of likes, so go ahead. Looks like this. Looks like a thumbs up button. Smash it. Takes a second. I got one more question, though, for you, Alan. Quarterback Danny O'Neal has decommitted from Colorado. We heard Blair mention it at the top of the show. We thought that the Buffs might have had their quarterback for 2024 and 2025, but now the Elite 11 finalist is available. So what programs do we need to keep an eye on for him?
So right away in the aftermath of this, I would look at Northwestern. He's had a good relationship with them. I think that they give him a chance to stay in the Midwest and Big Ten country, which he isn't necessarily tied to, but I think that they've done a really, really good job recruiting him. Mike Bajakian's done a good job there now. David Braun is now no longer the interim. He's the full-time head coach, so we'll see what of that offensive staff stays. But as it stands right now, they're the program that's most to watch. However, I think now that he's officially announced his decommitment, other schools are going to come in, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts over the next few weeks. One thing to watch, too, he was very, very close with Colorado offensive coordinator Sean Lewis. I think that the change in duties for Lewis had something to do with this decommitment, and now Lewis is being mentioned for different jobs across the country, whether that be as an OC or as a head coach. So where Sean Lewis lands could be another school, but as things stand, look out for Northwestern in that one.